Today is a good day. I have nearly apples to apples F350 dually versus F450 dually. Now I've done these videos in the past, but I've never been able to get the trucks as close as these. So when you see the payload capacity, the pricing, that's kind of why we did this video today. And I think this should be a good one because there are some extra benefits on the F450 that weren't there when I did my video last. Now I did borrow these trucks from Garff Ford here in West Valley, Utah. They have a ton of selection of dually trucks, brand new trucks, different colors. You guys see this beautiful red F450. I haven't seen one of these in like what, 2 years? I mean, I think I did a video on a single cab, but man, I haven't seen one like this in a high trim. So yeah, let's go ahead and check out the window stickers so you guys see the pricing, and then we're gonna go around these trucks and then we're gonna drive them back to back today. All right, let's jump into it. One last thing, if you do buy, be sure to ask for Ken. His cell phone number is in the video. Up first is the F350 dual wheel. This one's an Avalanche, and then this is just a short listing of the standard features here. But as far as the options go, Avalanche is a $395 ad, high output power stroke, also has the all-terrain tires, 355 rear, FX4 off-road package, gives it the skid plate down below, downhill assist, and you guys see rapid heat, engine block heater, pro power, fifth wheel hitch prep, secure code, twin panel, upfitter switches. Now base price for this truck is $82,195. Destination is $25.95. for a total price of $105,110. Now we all know Ford F450 says hold my beer, right? So ruby red is the exterior color, and then the short listing here is going to be the exact same for both trucks. Now that ruby red is going to cost you $495. High output is going to cost you $3,500 because it comes standard with the diesel. FX4 package, rapid heat, engine block heater, pro power, secure code, twin panel, upfitter switches. Like I said, these trucks are like identical in terms of the options, and this never happens. Now base price is $96,335. Destination $25.95 for a total price of $108,055. When you consider the base price of these two trucks, the F450 is going to cost you an additional $14,140. Now, as you guys just saw, the MSRP of these two trucks are a lot closer simply because if you need the diesel option on the F350, well, the price difference is $2,945. So it really is hard to justify the F350, right? Not really. I think honestly, for most people, this truck is more than enough truck. But the F450 has its strengths, and let's go ahead and start with just that wide front track. That is the biggest reason why people buy this truck, because the turning radius is, oh my goodness, so good. And of course on the F350, it doesn't look as aggressive because you don't have the larger fender flares, and of course you don't have the 19.5-inch wheels and tires. But these options do come at a cost, right? Because this truck is going to be the payload leader, which you'll see here at the end of this video. Now you guys see on the front end, both are platinums. Nothing really changes. They have the same grille design, same front bumpers, nothing changed. Now I did notice earlier when we did the thumbnail, the F450 does sit slightly higher, and that could be because of the tire and wheel setup too. So nothing really changed on the front end of these trucks, right? You see the front parking sensors, all the nice lighting because of the platinum trims, front cameras, all that's going to be the exact same. But you do have a 6-inch wider front track on the steering, so yes, the truck does have better steering. And as far as the suspension goes, you don't really notice a big difference with these two trucks. Let's go ahead and turn out the wheels so we can see it side by side. You can clearly see it right here. That is a cheat code for the F450. Look how much wider that wheel pokes out compared to the F350, right? So yes, that wider track allows this truck to have better turning radius. But as I said, you don't really see a big difference on that front suspension, right? I don't notice anything different. Now, that sway bar actually does look a little thicker on this side. Actually, it is a little thicker, okay? And I mean, I would say obviously your front axle is going to be different for sure, but you guys will see here, F350 does have 8 lug versus the 10 lug on the F450. Now, as far as the brakes go, here are the brakes for the F450 versus, do I need to get out my tape measure? I don't think I need to. That is definitely bigger front brakes, and you can actually tell because of the wheel size, because these are 19.5s, so the 17s will naturally have smaller brakes because of that. Now, as far as tire capacity goes, these are the Michelin LTX AT2s, right? So LT 245, 75, 17. Now, if you're running it in single up front, 3,195 pounds of capacity at 80 psi cold, or as dual, 2,910 pounds, 80 psi cold, versus these 225, 70, 19.5 inch wheels. These are G-rated and 3-peak tires too, so that's really nice that they give you such an overrated tire. Now, as far as the capacity goes, it's actually right here, 3,970 pounds in single at 110 psi, and dual is 3,750 at 110 psi. I'll show you guys what the yellow stickers say for tire pressure too. But again, do you really need this much capacity to tow a 15,000 pound trailer? If you're someone that's really towing over 20,000 pounds, that really does matter, obviously, because your pin weight is going to increase as you go. But as I said, nothing's going to really change outside of those things there. So out back, same beds, 48-gallon fuel tank on both trucks, 7.4 gallon DEF, and they both have the FX4 package, so they have the skid plates down there, and I would venture to say you will not see any differences in the suspension. Those suspension leaves look exactly the same. You have the one overload. Yep, that all looks exactly the same. No differences on the leaf pack. And that's simply because this F450 is derated for this segment. And if it did have the actual F450 suspension in the cabin chassis segment, you would hate this truck and no one would buy it because of how rough the ride would be. Out back, this is why you get the Platinum. You get the power tailgates, you get the full LED tail lights. Now on this side of the house, you do have a Class 5 hitch with a 2.5 inch receiver. On this side, you have a Class 5 hitch with a 3-inch receiver. If you would like to get the 3-inch receiver on this F350, you would have to get the 410, and that way you would upgrade your hitch as well. However, this truck has the 355, and you guys see that axle is going to be different from what you're going to see on this F450. Okay, so this rear diff is more overbuilt. You also see that this truck does have a more beefier sway bar compared to the F350 over there, and 430 rear comes standard. You cannot go to a 410 or 355 on this truck. And so as far as fuel economy goes, I do have a video I've done in the past which you should check out to show the differences on that too. Okay, so as far as the brakes go, again, are those brakes bigger? Let's get a little closer. Let's see. Hopefully you guys can see. Yeah, those brakes, I don't need a tape measure, nor do you. You don't need a tape measure to see that these brakes are clearly bigger than the F350s. Clearly bigger. Now on both trucks, they do give you aluminum wheels and a steely for the inner. And then here's a quick peek at that wheel design too. I do like the design better for the 17s, personally. But these look really nice. And you have to remember, if you're someone who likes to customize your truck and you want to keep the stock wheels, there's not as many tire options on here. Now you can get 35s on 19.5s now, but you have way more options with this 17-inch wheel. As far as the frame goes too, I don't see any differences. Both trucks do have the fifth wheel prep package. And I will show you guys the capacities here in a second. Let's go ahead and check out what's under the hoods. I need to clarify one thing. In order to get that 3-inch receiver, you have to get a diesel option, and I think it's the high output too for the F350. And you would get a cooled diff cover with that setup. 410 high output power stroke gives you the 3-inch receiver hitch on the dually only, not on the single rear wheels, dually only, and it gives you the cooled diff cover. Okay, so just make sure we're on the same page there. Sometimes I have to clarify things because then people call me out and say that I'm wrong, and they're like, okay, well, I just didn't explain it that good, and I apologize. But regardless of it, as you guys saw, the diesel comes standard on the F450, but not this high output diesel, the standard output diesel, which has 475 horsepower and 1,050 pound-feet of torque. All that power goes to a 10-speed 10R140 transmission. On this side of the house, this truck comes standard with a 7.3 liter gas engine. That's going to have 430 horsepower, 485 pound-feet of torque, I believe. 10-speed transmission behind it too. Now, what's nice about the 7.3 is if you want to save the money on the diesel option, you could get a 430 rear, which would give you max tow. And I would venture to say, if you're looking to do a bed camper and you need the payload, this truck's gonna give you even more payload than this truck could ever have, simply because, as you guys just saw, bigger brakes, bigger axles, 10 lug, heavier tires. All that's going to take away from your payload because you're tapped out at 14K GWR, right? So this truck also has the option to get the standard output and high output diesel options too. What we're going to do next is we're going to drive these trucks really quickly. I'm just going to go down this little bumpy side road, and then I'm going to show you guys the numbers on the door, okay? Try to hit some bumps here. This truck rides great. And I highly recommend, if you are ordering a truck, get it with the camper package in the F350. Yeah, this is so nice. Now you'll see the tire pressure here in a second. That's gonna really play into why this truck is gonna ride better too, because you don't have as stiff of a sidewall as you would on those G-rated tires. But yeah, this cruising down the highway here. This road's not perfect either. A little bit of bumps in here. Yeah, this is very, very soft. I think that most people will find that this truck rides almost like a single rear wheel truck these days. It doesn't feel like a actual dually. So here's the true test. Turning radius. This is where the F350 just suffers. Now that wasn't too bad, but if that mailbox was a little bit closer, I probably would have had to back up. But yeah, as I said, this truck, even on this bumpy road, it feels pretty compliant. I think that you're probably going to hear a noticeable difference in my voice with that F450. It's going to be a little stiffer, but it's not significantly stiffer because the suspension doesn't really change on that truck. But where it does change is those stiffer sidewall tires. So here's the update they made for this model year for F450. Hopefully you guys can see that. But yeah, this truck now has tire pressure for F450. They didn't have that in previous years. And you can definitely tell, driving these trucks back to back, yes, the F450 is stiffer, for sure. But is it bad? No, it's not that bad. It's just a stiffer sidewall tire. And this truck does feel a little bit more peppier too, probably because of the 430 rear. Yeah, I don't really notice a big difference on the ride on this road, guys. It's the same feel. I think it's just when you're hitting bumps at low speeds, that's where this really hurts a little bit more. Yeah, it's a little bit stiffer for sure. A little bit stiffer. But here's where the F450 shines. Right here. If you need to make a U-turn, there's no better truck. And I don't know if you guys, like, look, I'm actually in the median right here. That's how good the F450 is. And that's the main reason why people buy this truck, because if you're towing a trailer, that really does make a big difference in how you maneuver your trailer. So yeah, let's go ahead and check out the numbers on the door, and then that will pretty much end the video. Here's the front gross axle weight reading. It's gonna be 5,600 pounds. The rear is 9,900 pounds. Gross vehicle weight reading is 14,000 pounds. The wheels are 17 by 6.5 wide. And then 3K is the axle code. Now, all-in payload capacity is 5,350 pounds, 75 PSI for the front tire, 65 for the rear. F450 has a 6,000 pound front gross axle weight reading. And then the rear is 9,900 pounds. And then gross vehicle rating is 14,000 pounds. 19.5 by 6 wide wheels, 4L axle code. All-in payload is 4,844 pounds. You guys see the tire pressure out front is 90 PSI and the rear is 80 PSI. Which means the F350 has 506 pounds more of payload capacity. So that's just how much heavier those axles, brakes, wheels, and tires are compared to this F350. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm really excited that I had a chance to actually get identical trucks and F450, F350. I've been wanting to do this video for probably 5 years now, but we got it done today. We pretty much conquered world peace.
So here are the tow numbers, starting with the F350. So high output engine, 355. Here's your gross combined. And that number is going to be 27,000 pounds. Your F450 is 30,000. So it's not a big difference, right? But here's a fun fact. A lot of people don't know this about the F350, because I hear people say that the F450 pulls more. But in reality, you guys see right here, 355, 40,500 pound is for the F350. You guys see the tow numbers here, right? 31.8, 31.7. So it is lower than the F450, right? So 32.9, 31.9. However, if you go up to that 410, check that out. You do have a higher towing capacity for gooseneck and fifth wheel. And some people think that you do have higher numbers with the F450, but no, you do have more payload, which means you typically will have more towing capacity.